So, hello everyone, thanks for joining. My name is Bart and I'm happy to host this meeting today. Um, I would like to introduce myself maybe at the very beginning. I'm pleased to be recognized as an Alteryx ACE. This is a great privilege for me. I'm a huge fan of Alteryx for several years right now. On the daily basis, I work as a consultant, helping people solving problems through Alteryx. And last but not least, as a result of our passion to Alteryx, together with Emil, we co-founded a company, DataPal, which is an official Alteryx partner. Before we'll start like a specific presentation, which will be hosted by Treyson and Jupiter, I know that there are some new people who are here for the very first time, who are joining our initiative, our Alteryx user group initiative for the first time. And that's why I wanted to give you some information and background about this initiative. Basically, Alteryx user group is a place in which we network together and we share the knowledge and passion to Alteryx together as a part of this meeting. We started this initiative more than 3 years ago in 21. And since this time, we are meeting on a quarterly basis. We present different topics and tips about Alteryx. Today, we will have a pleasure to hear a comparison of Alteryx Cloud and Alteryx Designer, which will be very interesting from Treyson. Moreover, we'll hear some tips and insights from Jupiter when it comes to AI and Alteryx, a very trendy topic, I believe. Since 2021, we meet on a quarterly basis and we had more than 10 meetings like that. So this is a part of our cycle, I would say. We are going definitely to organize more later this year. On the right, you can see the names of Alteryx user group leaders. Just wanted to share that with you and the QR code in case if you have any questions regarding the organizational aspect of this meeting. Feel free to reach out to us. Okay, so as mentioned previously, Treyson will start with the Alteryx Cloud and Designer comparison. I'm very pleased and happy to see your presentation, Treyson, and then we'll pass the voice to Jupiter regarding AI and Alteryx. Treyson, if you could start the presentation, that would be perfect.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for coming in today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Alteryx Designer versus Alteryx Analytics Cloud. We're going to talk a little bit about Alteryx Server just for like functionality as well. But really, it's hey, I have the option to do either one of these platforms or both of these platforms. When do I use which one? And really just getting an idea of what the platform looks like right now and where they're going. To note, this is really status as of May 28th, 2024. There are a lot of changes happening with Alteryx Cloud. And so in a year or even maybe a few months, the platform may perform differently in certain ways. They're putting a lot of energy and effort into this right now. So things are going to change. So exciting to be here for that and watch that happen. And yeah, without any further ado, we're going to talk about it. Sorry. First, my name is Treyson Marks. I'm also an Alteryx ACE. I've been an Alteryx ACE since 2017, and I speak at a lot of user groups. I lead the Oklahoma City Alteryx user group, and Bart was so kind as to ask me to come and talk to you guys today. I also very much love Alteryx, and I've been using it for a long time, and I saw all the cool things that they were doing over at DataPal, so I said, you know what, I'm going to do that too. I want to make my own company. So I also do Alteryx consulting, but we really focus on like integration with other platforms. So the cloud makes a lot of sense for where we want to go. So real quick things with Alteryx Cloud, they make us put these like with these Alteryx presentations. They have these little fun little things here. So I really like Alteryx Cloud because it's a quick and easy way to make pipelines between different cloud platforms. I'm excited about the future with it because I think there's some things to be desired today, but I know that they're putting a lot of energy into the future version of the product. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And then right now, one of my goals with this platform is I'm talking a lot with the development team on that. So I'm constantly like, hey, can you fix this? Hey, can you fix that? Hey, what if we did this in the cloud? Hey, what I talked. So my personal goal is I want to get a lot of changes into the cloud and help them kind of push this product forward. Okay, so the use case, Alteryx Designer, which we know and love, is this great, awesome platform, but it's been around for like 25 years. And so things have changed. A lot of organizations require us to, are requiring to move applications from a desktop environment into a cloud environment. There are a lot of benefits to the cloud environment. One, I'm not stuck to any specific like platform, or I'm sorry, Windows, Mac, Linux. Like right now, I can only do Alteryx Designer on a Windows machine, but with Designer Cloud, I can use anything that has a browser to log in there and use that. Yes, also it allows us to scale quicker, and we can do compute on the cloud, especially as you move all of our data to the cloud. The cloud just makes a lot of sense for a lot of organizations. So what today we're going to do is talk about Alteryx Designer. We're going to do a quick recap of that so everyone can see what's going on there. We have some familiar terminology. Then we're going to move into Designer Cloud, Alteryx Cloud, talk about that whole thing, and then we're going to do some quick comparisons on the two. So this is Alteryx Designer. We've all seen this one. We all love it. Just to remind you a few things, we've got the canvas here, which is where we add all of our tools. These are all of our tools. We've got the results section here in the bottom. When we run our workflow, we can see what's happening at every single point in this workflow. We've got the configuration panel, which is if you are selected on any tool, it's how we set that tool up to work in the way we want it to. If we've selected the canvas, it just has some meta information on it. And then we have all of our tools up here. So it's important to establish that baseline because some of this has changed when we move into the cloud. Here's an example workflow. I grabbed a weekly challenge, number 167 here. This one's great because it has a lot of like the core functionality of Alteryx. We're bringing data in, we're doing some pivoting functions, we're doing filtering, we're doing sorting, we're doing joins, we're doing samples, we're doing different parsing things, and then formulas, of course. We all do a lot of formula work, and so that all exists here in the select. And then we have some output, but I don't have one in this example, but you understand what's going on here. So we want to take this and we want to see how some of this functionality looks in the Alteryx Designer Cloud platform. So let's jump over there. Two things here. Oh, goodness. Sorry, there's a bunch of stuff on my screen and it's behind. When you log into Alteryx Cloud, this is what you see. Note, we have Designer Cloud here, which is what we're looking at mostly today, but we have all these other parts of the platform that we're going to talk about a little bit, and that'll be more clear as we kind of go through this presentation. But we've got Designer Cloud, we've got Auto Insights, which is another tool that we can push data sets to, and then it finds a bunch of it does a lot of that data science work or a lot of that analytics work for us and says, hey, what about all of this important information? And then it can this is the AI ML component, one of the AI ML components of the cloud. We've got location intelligence, which Alteryx was founded on as a tool for geographical use cases. That all exists here in the locational intelligence tool. We've got an entire machine learning, which works very much like the intelligence suite on Designer Cloud, or sorry, Designer Desktop. So put in a data set, it asks you a bunch of questions. It helps you build a machine learning model off of that. App Builder, which is a totally, well, it's a largely new function of this, and in my opinion, this is the coolest part of Designer of Alteryx Cloud. This is what I presented on at Inspire this year. I think it's going to be a real differentiator for this platform once it's like fully flushed out. And we'll talk about that quickly. And then plans, which are how we now orchestrate jobs, and then reporting functions. And then this other one down here, which is the cloud execution for desktop. We're at the end, we're going to touch this briefly. But anyway, I'm going to go into Designer Cloud. We'll launch this. Oh, actually, I apologize. There's one more thing I want to show you. Up here at the top, we have information about, so like these are the different tools within it. But then if we want to look at data connections that are data sets that we've created, we have an entire data set area up here. If we want to look at connections, so like if I'm connected to my Snowflake or my Databricks instance, all that exists for us in here. Library are the workflows that we have that we've used before, and then schedules and jobs. We'll talk about those probably at the end. So note here, I've got all of my different data sets that I want to use in a workflow, or that I may want to use in a workflow. We have to think about things a little differently as we are designing in the cloud, because I can't connect straight to a file that's on my machine. I have to upload that file in my machine for use. Now, when we move to the cloud, we might want to think about using something like ADLS or like an S3 bucket as a repository that we then connect that repository directly there so we can refer to them. But I'm not doing that there. Again, we are now going to have to shift the whole move to the cloud will require a little bit of shift in mindset, and the way we connect to things like flat files is a big part of that. So this is an example. So Alteryx Cloud has 3 parts to it, and I don't want to get terribly into the technical weeds of this, but there is the interface, which we're looking at now. There is the storage layer, which we don't see that, but that's essentially where all of these files are stored for me. This can either be something that's owned by Alteryx or something that your organization can own. And then there's the processing area, which is where something that can also be partitioned out so that Alteryx either owns that or you own that, just so depending on like your organization's privacy concerns, whatever that looks like, who you can own those parts of this process. So these are all stored in that Alteryx because I use this for demo. I leverage that Alteryx storage area. So all of these are stored in that Alteryx storage area. Okay, now let's actually look at Designer. I'm sure everyone wants to see the thing now. I go into Designer Cloud. I launch this. I've got this workflow started for us already, so I'm just going to click on this challenge. We see all of these files that I've connected to over here. Now, already we're going to notice it's a little different. The canvas still exists here in the middle, but all of my tools are now on the left. All of my results are still at the bottom, and there isn't really like a configuration window that I can see. Once I click on a tool, all my configuration shows up over here. Note here, we're already seeing records coming through this. Now, the important thing to note is that I didn't click any play buttons. This just sort of started running. What's cool about Alteryx Cloud, and you'll see this in just a second as I add some tools to the platform, or sorry, to the canvas. There is like this runs as we're developing things. So we're not having to constantly run the job over and over again to see how things are happening in flight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm just going to do some quick pivoting here. So out of the race details, which was this, so we did a crosstab, then a transpose because of the way we want to look at our data. I'm going to go ahead and add a crosstab into the race details. Notice that this is already going to be a little different, and we'll talk about some of the cool functionalities of this specific tool. So this one, we want to group on the name, and then my year is my column value, and my race ID is my value within the columns, and we're going to grab the first value. So if we want to create a new column from our race ID. So again, it's already sort of asking, oops, sorry, not this one, not from our year. Now, note something that's very interesting about this tool that doesn't exist for us in the current desktop version is that I have the ability to like remove the fields that are going to pivot. So currently you have to pivot all of them out and then do select to get rid of the ones that you don't want. Now within this tool, I can get rid of any headers that I'm going to pivot in there. We're going to populate the values from the race ID, and then the output method is going to be an aggregation. Or let's just do sum for this. I don't think it's going to matter actually. So just first. You don't really do sum, and then there's a group by function that should exist in here. Columns to group by was on the group on the name. So note here, everything's happening as I'm moving through this tool. So now I have all of those things. I've got all of the different names. I've got the years, and then I've got all of the values within that, which is exactly how I wanted to see it before. And again, I'm not running this I'm not running the workflow. It's just happening as I'm going, which is nice because, remember, like notice how I've clicked the wrong column here, or I forgot to aggregate. I saw that happening, so I'm not like running the workflow and then pulling a bunch of data in and then, oh crud, I need to go back in there and adjust the tool. It's already done for me. So we take that, and then so after that in our workflow, we grab the transpose tool. And how did we do this? Set this up over here. We have the name, which we grabbed all of the fields, and then, okay, that's very familiar. So we're just going to leave it like this, actually. So columns to group by, we weren't grouping by on anything. We're transposing these tools. All right. Oh, cool. Look, actually, look at this. Now I've got all of these here. Let me make sure that I didn't set that up incorrectly. Data column. Oh, everything except for name. So we don't want this one. Cool. Okay, so in the year, what were the race IDs? Now notice I have all these nulls. I don't necessarily need that data here. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but again, just showing you the functionality of what it feels like to design in this platform versus the Alteryx Designer desktop. So value, we're going to do a null for this value. So is this value null? We want to keep the is not null. Now, note we still have the ability to use the true and the false side out of this tool. So none of this functionality is changing, just kind of how we're developing things are going to change a little bit. So yeah, so this is the basic feel of the designer platform. So once we build this out, we will then note, again, I haven't run the job at all. Once we build the whole workflow out, we will save this workflow, and then we have to run the job physically. So we don't have this job working. This is not something that we can click run and see the results every time. Why is that important? And so this is a big thing that isn't obvious. I built several workflows before I learned this. Because of the cloud, because the way the cloud works, we are building workflows off of sample data sets. So what that means is that all of these are relatively small. So we're seeing the full data set in all of these. But let's say we have something that has millions of records and it's pulling it from Snowflake. It's not going to pull the full data set of Snowflake to build this on top of every single time, because Snowflake egress costs are expensive. Same for Databricks. Whatever your cloud data platform is, you have to now think about this cost. So what it does is it pulls over a sample data set and we work off the sample data set. Okay, this can be, this provides a new interesting challenge to us, because building workflows off of samples doesn't always work correctly, or rather you don't know everything you're going to see with your entire data set if you're building it off of samples. So we just have to be very aware that this is something that's happening, and as we build towards it, we are very specific about the sample data we select. So if you're pulling like a select star from a table, instead select star or select star and then where, and like define the kind of data that you want to be in your data set when you're building. So we're going to have to make some changes on that. The way we think about that. The other thing we'll notice is that a lot of the tools are missing, which is the next point. Why are there so many fewer tools in Designer Cloud than Alteryx Designer? Asked everyone who's ever seen the platform. So right now, it's about 70% of the tools for Alteryx Designer desktop exist in Alteryx Designer Cloud. There's a reason for this. Alteryx Designer Cloud, or Alteryx Cloud, is shifting the way we kind of think about the platform. So Alteryx Designer is very much multi-purpose. So we can do everything we want with Alteryx Designer and Alteryx Server. Well, we can do most everything we want in these two platforms. So we can do our core plot and Bren, our reporting, our geospatial, machine learning, analytics, scheduling, orchestration, which where we bring the server in, and then we have all the different connectors. So that's where we leverage all of those within the single, or the Designer desktop and the cloud, or Designer desktop and server product. Now, in Alteryx Cloud, there are all of these nodes, which I discussed earlier. They are built for a specific purpose. So we've got Designer Cloud, which does that, the prep, the blend, the ETL. We've got reporting, which is, again, this sort of intuitive drag and drop report configuration. We didn't go into that much today, but that's what that is. Location intelligence. This is, again, a separate node that's doing all of our geospatial analysis. Machine learning, separate node that's doing machine learning. Auto insights. I would probably call this app builder. This is App Builder is where we're going to replace some of the analytic app functions of Alteryx Designer. Plans are a much better way to schedule and orchestrate than the way we currently do it on Alteryx Server, and we'll talk about that briefly. And then connectors. So the ability to connect like straight into a lot of these cloud products exists out of the box, and I can actually show you that real quick here. This is everything we can connect to currently with Alteryx Cloud. There is a big old set of things. So what's nice about this is I can like these all come out of the box, so I can connect to these. I don't have to like go to the community. I don't have to go find a connector that someone else built and then download that or pay for it or whatever. All this stuff exists for us in here. So there is a lot of connectability available to us through this. Now, what this means is that because everything is partitioned up, or let's talk about why this is partitioned up. So the way that data is processed in Alteryx Cloud is a little different than how we're used to it. So currently, we bring everything to us, we do all of the processing, and then we push it back. Unless you're using the in-database tools, which need some love. They haven't been updated or changed in as long as I've used the platform, and they have a very specific like function. It was built for SQL Server, but now there's so much that we can do. It just hasn't changed. The way that Alteryx Cloud works is it's called like push down. So the idea is that as I'm building this workflow out that we saw earlier in Designer Cloud, it will be creating SQL code for me, and it will push it to wherever that cloud platform is. Now, why this is so valuable, I mentioned this a little earlier. Egress costs are quite expensive for our cloud. So the less data that we can bring into our environment to do work on, the better. So it is trying to push as much of that into that push down, like it's pushing as much of the data processing back to the platform where the data exists as possible. Now, what that means for us is that there are certain functions that can't happen in those environments, like a Snowflake or Databricks. So that's why we have fewer tools in the platform. Now, some of those tools are being built, and what they're going to do is they're going to allow you to either build workflows with this pushdown methodology or AMP methodology, which is the AMP engine, which is the current Alteryx engine we know and love, in that Alteryx Cloud data plane that we talked about. And so that is where we're going to expand the list of tools. But now we again have to think about, okay, we are egressing data out of our platform. We're processing it all locally, and then if we're pushing it back to the platform, then we have to pay for that, or whatever we want to do with it. So that's why there are fewer tools. Now, let's talk about this. Alteryx Cloud allows us to build in new ways as well. So you may have some sort of application or solution that you want to build that is multiple pieces of this workflow. So like, let's say we did some geospatial stuff, or we have a handful of designer workflows, and then we have some machine learning stuff that we want to do, and we want to build an application that exists over those, or we want to have workflows that leverage the output of other workflows. This is now how we are able to build within Alteryx Designer, Alteryx Cloud, which is probably a little bit more programmatic way of thinking, but it allows us to like partition specific functions. So one thing I didn't really demonstrate today now is that Alteryx Designer workflows can have an input of an output of another workflow. App Builder, which again is this cool thing that I don't think I'm going to have a ton of time to talk about, but App Builder, well, no, I'm going to talk about it. App Builder really allows us to build like CRUD applications on top of Alteryx Designer. So currently in Alteryx, if you want to build analytic apps on the server that are really just, we just put in some different parameters and we just get results back. Where with App Builder, we can build application and interface that we can actually like select and get it to do things like, who uses Power BI and Tableau? I'm sure a lot of you use Power BI and Tableau, and you're like, hey, I have this table that I've made, and I want to click on this table, and then I want to make it right back to my database because I'm here and I see the problem, but if I can't I then have to go find the problem in whatever my system of record is. So App Builder is designed to allow you you and I, non-technical users, to build applications that do those CRUD functions. Sorry, CRUD, create, read, update, delete. So if we are adding records back into a database, these applications allow us to build something that standard users can do. And to note, I've built CRUD functions in other platforms, or CRUD applications in Airbyte. Oh goodness, I can't remember what the other one was. I've done it in a few other ones, and they generally require some understanding of programmatic languages. So Python, I don't know, pick one. This platform will remove that need to do that. So anyway, but the idea of this is that this app builder can sit on top of pre-built designer workflows and like machine learning workflows. So you're not having to build these. You can just leverage the work that other people have built to do that. So let's talk about the benefits of that. We're going to skip this one for just a second, but the user focus. So now me as an organization, I can say I have these people who are good at AI and machine learning. I have these people who are good at geospatial. I have these folks who are good at building, well, just like this Alteryx workflow, the understanding the flow of data. I can now push those specific functions onto those specific people. So my data scientists don't have to worry about all of the data munging. We have a workflow that's built for them, and they can build some sort of AI machine learning thing on top of that. The other benefit of this developing is now that you have individual teams at Alteryx who are in charge of these individual modes. So I mentioned earlier, like the in-database tools, like they haven't gotten a lot of love lately. It's been 10 years since I think they've added a tool into that. Now you have teams focused specifically on one of these functions, like the geospatial thing. You have an entire geospatial team that's like, how are we going to move this part of the platform forward? So there is specific focus on all of these nodes, and nothing gets left in the dust, or nothing should get left in the dust. There's also better orchestration, which I didn't really talk about on Designer Cloud. But right now, like something that's very difficult in Alteryx Server, which is again the part that sits on top of Designer Desktop, is saying, hey, I run this workflow, and if it fails, then I want to do one of these things, or if it runs, then I want to kick off jobs. We can do that. It's just tricky, unfortunately. Alteryx has plans which allow for better orchestration of that job. So if it runs successfully, then what do we do? If it fails, then what do we do? How do we do like triggered like scheduling of jobs? So like, hey, I have an S3 bucket. If a new file gets added to that, then kick off a workflow, things like that. That all exists for us now in the plans. Yes, so that's good. So when do we leverage which platform? Alteryx Cloud. If we are trying to do Alteryx Designer workflows, we want to stick to like some of that simpler workflows, especially for right now, because that's all we've got. The tools that we saw, we can do most. I'd say most workflows can currently be done in the cloud. If you are trying to create low-tech data pipelines between platforms, oftentimes we find ourselves with other Alteryx things just kind of creating, I would say, like POCs of functions that we may eventually want to move into a what's it called? Into like something that IT owns eventually. Just Alteryx Cloud does a really good job at like, hey, let's create those pipelines between here, and then whenever IT gets to it, they can actually create those pipelines like in a sustainable way that they then own, and it's not something that we as business users have to own. We do need a little bit more collaboration, which we talked about, or we can use more. Sorry, we want to use this platform when you're in an organization that wants to collaborate more, or you have complex orchestration needs. There's also cloud execution for desktop, which I said we talk about. So essentially the idea is that you can take Alteryx workflows as they exist right now on your desktop, and you can push them into Alteryx Cloud. Now they don't look exactly the same, and they actually work on the back end and you don't see them. But if you do have some of these more complex Alteryx desktop functions, you can leverage them in the Alteryx Cloud. And then on-prem, which is Designer Server, we want to do this for like iterative workflow processes. So right now, macros aren't a thing in Alteryx Cloud. So if you need to do a for or while loop, or I'm sorry, an iterative or a batch macro, you're going to have to use on-prem. If you wanted to use some like the heavy data science stuff, like you want to manage your own R library or Python library, I would suggest on-prem. If you need the whole workflow to be in a single process, I would also stick to on-prem. And then if you have security concerns around the cloud, that's why I would also stick to on-prem. I think I took way more time than I was supposed to. I apologize. That's it. If anybody has any questions, I will be in the chat, and I will pass this back to Bart.
Yep, I think we can have a few minutes for questions if there are any. Thanks, Treyson, for this presentation. If you have any questions, you can please unmute yourself, and we are happy to answer those.
I have a comment from my side. I really like the part that you don't need to run a workflow and you see what is exactly happening. Like that we have something similar in the designer, but it's only for one line of the data. So this is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
And make your life a little bit easier, because if you have a robust process, you don't need to rerun all the process to actually see what you are doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. However, I have concern. What is the performance? I mean, in my area, in my neighborhood, the internet connection is not too good. I am wondering if there is something that requires, really super duper internet speed, so wireless and so on.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that, because that was one of my initial concerns too. But when we talk about that sampling of data, so it only pulls like 10 megabytes, I think, of data for you to build on top of. You're working on a much smaller set of data as you're building. And they have, just again to note, earlier when I was working with this, I had those performance concerns, and I showed them areas where it was taking forever to perform, and they've done a lot of fixes on that. So if you see, just to note, that team is very receptive to feedback. So if you have problems and we want to talk about it, we can take it right to that team, and they would love to know about it. So if you're playing around in the platform, I do love, not that I don't love everybody at Alteryx, but the Alteryx Designer Cloud team has been fantastic.
Thanks.
You, Peter?
So I would like to,
yeah.
Yes, I would like to add a few things also. So the first thing is that we are in the cloud environment. That means there is a strong separation between the design phase and the execution phase. So in the design phase, when you define the step, everything that you see happens on the browser. So you just need a few samples of your data in order to build the logic. But during the execution, this is where actually the heavy loads happen. This happens in the cloud completely. It is not on your machine, and it is not somewhere where there is no connection, internet connection. Everything is on the data center. And from there, you have all the scalability, the compute capacity that the cloud offers. So generally, people use the cloud also for terabyte, for heavy load execution, meaning that you have terabyte of data that you want to prepare. So you designed it, the workflow, and then at the moment that you want to execute it, and you have seen it also in the demo, execution actually is submitting a job. So it's not executing everything there, but submitting a job, and later you will receive the result. So there, all the compute capacity, the scalability, everything. So everything, the engine is actually built on a Kubernetes cluster, meaning that if there are something that is required, then the infrastructure will scale automatically.
Thanks for that comment. It's very helpful to hear your voice as a subject matter expert, and I'm really looking forward for your presentation. But before we'll do that,
Thank you.
I just wanted to maybe summarize Treyson presentation around Alteryx Cloud and Designer. Like, from my perspective, I believe the message from that presentation is quite clear. Like, Alteryx Cloud and Alteryx Designer are two different products at this stage. This is how we could describe that. Mm-hmm. There are some areas in which these products can overlap when it comes to functions or scope and functionalities, but the differences are clear, I think, at the very first glance. As Treyson mentioned, when it comes to Alteryx Cloud, I would say that every company which is looking for cloud-oriented technology would be definitely interested in this direction. Alteryx Cloud would give the possibility to address simple problems, as Treyson mentioned, and the collaboration aspect seems to be a very important aspect comparing to Designer, for instance. When I think about Alteryx Designer, there is one sentence that always comes to my mind. This is a Swiss Army knife, and I think you, Peter, in your presentation will have some more examples as well when it comes to those use cases. When I think about Alteryx Designer, I'm thinking about more complex processes which could be solved through that solution. And last but not least, I think, Treyson, you mentioned as well that there is a desktop execution possibility. So basically, you can run your Alteryx Designer workflows on Alteryx Cloud. So that's why, in the end, I think those are two different products, which could be even used together when it is needed. I see that there is a question. What are the expectations when most companies will start using the cloud? Treyson, would you like to answer this question?
I know that there are, well, I'd say it'd probably be fairly industry specific. Certain industries aren't moving over there as fast. I've also seen organizations even start pulling back a little bit from the cloud. Like they decided to move everything to the cloud and thought it would solve some of their data problems, but it didn't. It just kind of like blew up their data problems, because if you have data structure issues, if you have messy data, if you have data all over the place, centralizing it doesn't always solve that. So I think if you have a very specific like data set that you're like, I need this to be in the cloud for whatever reason, I don't, this is, sorry, not really answering the question, but I think it's probably industry specific, and probably even more specifically organization specific. Is your IT comfortable with the move, or is your organization's strategy to move to the cloud? That's, I guess, more industry specific. But I guess in general, we do see a lot of people moving to the cloud. I guess I don't know how to answer this question in the way you probably want. I apologize. Like it's this is just what I've seen. I don't know if there's a timeline for everyone to move to the cloud.
I see that we are on time, and maybe we could move the question section to offline. If you need any support, feel free to reach out to us or Treyson. And right now, I'm very happy to introduce you, Peter, and his presentation. I believe this will be very exciting, and I'm looking forward to see you in action, you, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I will try to share my screen. So thank you very much. One question about how much time do I have?
I believe we can extend this meeting a little, so 25 minutes. For that, it will be good.
Okay, so I have 35 minutes only for the presentation and the demo. Right. Okay,
that's correct.
Let us start. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this user group meeting. So we are going to talk about today about how you can actually consume generative AI algorithm within Designer and Server. So at that stage, we will keep the cloud, I will say, deployment out of the focus for this presentation, but I will go over Designer and Server, and I will highlight you different strategy, how you can integrate actually generative AI technology in your workflow. And by doing this, you allow actually the business to be part of that journey. But we have a lot of questions that we need first to answer. The question is why now? Why is it important? We want to answer also the question of how does these things actually works? And the last question, what are the use cases that I need to consider, but how can I integrate this in Alteryx Designer? And does it make sense? What kind of use case will be the focus for me? So I will try to answer this question in these 20 minutes. And let's start first with the first question. So about me, I am Jupiter Bakakeu. I'm lead cell engineer at Alteryx, and I'm more or less responsible for generative AI approach or project within my region. And today we are going to explore exactly all these questions. So the first thing, how is generative AI impacting your industry? I know you are working with different customers of yours, or you are directly part of the Alteryx customer team. But the question is, how is this impacting you? And why do we need to act now? Why is it necessary? And to illustrate that, I just put you one single video. I want you, in fact, to listen to see this video.
We don't hear the recording. If
Can you see my screen?
yes.
Yes. So I will just stop the video, and I have one question for you guys. The question for you is, what do you think, how many human involvement was in the making of that video?
How many people?
How many people were involved?
One person?
Zero. Actually zero. And this is actually an OpenAI video from Sora. So Sora give the OpenAI give the algorithm as some kind of artist, and they ask the artist actually to generate different videos. And what you can see here, the quality is quite high. So it is something that is really, really, really crazy what is happening right now. And we have seen, I took this example because here we have a pretty much comparison. So here you can see on the left what was at the same time last year, so around May 2023. This was the kind of video that we were generating. But at February 2024, this is the kind of video that we can generate. What this example highlights is actually the speed at which this development is called. So imagine if you are a CEO of Disney, and then one morning you wake up, you go on LinkedIn, and then somebody says to you that this video has been entirely generated by AI. So the question for you was, where was I? Right? What the heck? What is happening? And like I mentioned, this is not a singular example. This is something that we have seen in the past. So here in that chart, you can see over the year different algorithms, AI algorithm that has been developed. So in the beginning of the AI, I will say revolution, the third phase of the AI revolution, it took about 3 to 4 years before one algorithm surpassed the human level performance. Now it took about 3 to 4 months, which means that even your customer and your industry, if you don't care about it, you will wake up one morning and then see that your core business has been revolutionized by somebody else. And we actually started to see some example, and I will highlight the example of In Silico Medicine. This is a Hong Kong-based company. So In Silico Medicine, for example, they are able per year to bring 15 drugs in the market as of now. And there are around 20,000 people working in that company. But the big company, I will just mention one name, like the biggest that we know, have around 500,000. They are able to bring in the market a maximum of 10 drugs. So the question is, how do they do that? They do it because overall in their process, they have some small piece of AI that will speed up their work. So everywhere within the organization, everything is speed up. Small use case, small speed, small increase. So you don't need to have one AI that make the whole revolutionary in order to use actually the benefit of generative AI. And this is one smallest example. And actually, this is something that also the partner at McKinsey say, if you want actually to leverage those generative AI technology, you have to embed it in the core of your business, everywhere where it is possible. This is the only way where you can actually get advantage of that. And this is actually good because Alteryx, this is our key messaging. We want to democratize analytics. We want to democratize AI, meaning that we want to help all our business users, no matter in what department they are in, to leverage those kind of technology and embed those technology in their workflow, in their business process, right? But how do we do that? This is the question. So before we answer that, let's have a look first at the kind of use case that normally the business users are facing. So I brought with me this representation where I have two segmentation. I will just keep at the high level. We have what we call everyday AI and what we call game-changing AI. So under everyday AI, this is actually the business process, the use case that you are actually doing on the day-to-day basis. So the AI here helps you to speed up what you are doing, so making it more performant. And then you have on the other side, the game-changing AI. These are the stuff that the AI allows you now to do. So for example, the OpenAI Sora, right? Completely change your business process, completely change your business core. But for Alteryx, we say for the business user, since this is a new technology, you are not the expert, right? But what you know is that you know the process. You are the domain expert. So you know what is the input, what is the output. We advise you to use Alteryx, actually, and consider the use case of everyday AI. These are simple use case. I want to generate, for example, an email marketing campaign and send it to 100,000 people. So I can now personalize it, use a large language model to generate it for me. This is something that you will be able to do in Designer and automate it. Or another example, I want to generate some release note. I want to test the quality of my data. I want to augment my data with some metadata information. I can actually build the workflow that will look into my data and then generate the metadata for that. Right. This is the things that I know, and I can see what is the input and what is the output. And me as a business user, I can actually assess the risk that those technology can bring to me. This is where we say, please, at the beginning, start by focusing there. So the second question that comes is also, how do you build a standard AI or a standard generative AI solution? Let's take the example of retrieval augmented generation, which means you want to build, for example, a chatbot where you can access some information, then he goes over all your documents that the company have in-house and then try to provide you one kind of answer. I try to abstract it in different steps. I think these steps are quite important for you to understand exactly where you as a business user, you play a role. So generally you have a question that you want or a business problem that you want to solve. So you gather the process data. This is where you get all this PDF information, all the data from your database or your data warehouse, whatever you have. And once you get this information, you set up some LLM or some or you say Gen AI architecture, and now you make the prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is actually what you are asking to the large language model. And then based on the result of the application that you have, you can say, okay, probably I need to make fine-tune my AI model, or I need to bring it directly into operation. Why is it important? You are the Alteryx expert, so you know that there is no other tool that can help you as a business user, to gather the information, no matter where these information are. So if you have it on the cloud, if you have it on-premise, if it is PDF or if it's structured or unstructured, you have the ability with Alteryx actually to get the content of those information. And this is actually quite important because for generative AI, almost all of the data that you use for training or for inferences are unstructured. Actually, 95% of the data that you use for generative AI are unstructured, which means you have picture, you have videos, you have PDF document, a lot of PDF document that you need to use. And Alteryx, with our tool, gives you the ability actually to do that. So how does the architecture looks like? And I think here it is where we are now going, after this slide, we are going into the concrete demonstration. So generally, you have your data source. That could be a system, an application, could be SharePoint, could be on GitHub, could be on AWS. Then generally, we need to onboard this model, this information. This will be the knowledge base of our AI, generative AI application. So if I say to the knowledge base, please generate a marketing campaign for Auto Insight, my large language model or my generative AI needs to know what is Auto Insight. And we will not know what is Auto Insight unless I say this is a description of Auto Insight, because I feed in the documentation of that, right? So the first part and the first thing, where you as a business user, because you are the domain expert, you know exactly what is relevant for the use case. You are the one that can actually speed up the data onboarding process. Then there is, here I put it as a black box because right now out of the market, there is a lot of solution if you want to build your Gen AI stack. So you can use a solution by Microsoft, by Google, by AWS, and also by Alteryx. But this is at the moment still on the beta version. But the last part that I want to show you where you can leverage those technology is actually by consuming those models. Meaning that you have a problem to solve, you give the input data, he will infer something, generate some kind of response, and you can bring that response back into Alteryx Designer. And this is actually where the magics happen. This is where you, for example, you can now think about the kind of use case that you want to build. So imagine this large language model or this Gen AI algorithm, imagine them as an additional building block that you can just take, plug it into your workflow, and you now start to use those capabilities inside your workflow. Okay, how does it look? Just to summarize, Alteryx will help you to bring those kind of capabilities to the business user in 3 ways. The first way is data onboarding. So you have with Alteryx the ability to tap into unstructured data, to bring those data at a specific destination. You actually have the ability also to perform some kind of advanced analysis on those of this data. You have the ability to increase the Gen AI consumption. What I mean by consumption is to say, we will abstract the capability of those building blocks into, technology into one building block. And then we will bring those building blocks into the workflow. And now we can start interacting with it. And of course, the last is actually Gen AI implementation. By the end of the year, Alteryx will offer you the ability also to implement your own Gen AI end-to-end solution. So let's look at it live. For that, I bought 3 use cases. And I bought 3 use cases specifically because they are either pedagogical and they are also eye-opening. So let's start with the one that I think will be first eye-opening for you. Extract information from unstructured invoices. So right now, extracting information from unstructured document is something that you can do with Alteryx. Extracting information from invoice is something that you can do for Alteryx, but works very well when you have a fixed template. But when you do not have a fixed template, how can you tackle that kind of challenge, right? So here I will just use the example of a large language model as a generative AI. I will just extract the content of the PDF document, unstructured, and then I will ask my large language model to extract the information that I am interested from that text content, right? So let's have a look of it in action. I will go over here. So unstructured invoices, for example, let's imagine I have a following invoice. It is something that is unstructured. I don't know exactly what kind of information. It's another language. It's actually in German. Could be also something that is in Chinese, right? And now I need to extract the information from that invoice. I don't know what is the template, what I need to do. So of course, because Alteryx has already have the bulk extraction from text, from image to text. So here we are going to extract this information, for example, here, without any structure. So we have these things that has no structure. We don't know exactly where the information that I'm looking for are located. But now the next step will be to prepare a specific prompt that you can see here. To prepare a specific prompt that I will then ask my large language model, given this table or this information that I extract from the PDF, please, you can see it here with the format. I want to extract the information coming from my invoices and so on. Please extract this information and give the result back as a large language, as a JSON element. So now that I prepared the prompt, and actually what you can see here in the prompt is that I'm using the formula tool, which means that I can actually parameterize those prompts. Meaning that if I am doing something for a specific product, then I can say, please add, and then add the product ID and different things there. So now, how do I infer that large language model? So by the way, we know that large language model is something that is always on OpenAI or somewhere else. And we don't want to send our data there, right? So what I prepare today is that I have a local inference. Actually, I have a server here that runs on my machine, and that's a Llama 3 that you can see here. And just by starting the server locally, now I have the ability actually to ask to that specific large language model over a macro. The macro just use a download tool to send a REST request and then get the response. And now I can ask to my large language model to extract the information for me. And if I go on the result, you will see here the response. Let's go here. What is sent to me is that I wanted to extract the article number, the article Bezeichnung, the price nach Abzug. He gave me that with some kind of anchor so that I can pass those results afterwards. Okay? And the good thing is also because this is hosted on my machine, I don't need to give those data to somebody else. And the other thing is that I do not need to rely only on the one model. So here in that workflow, I am using Llama 3, I am using Mistral, I am using Llama 2, and I am using Google Gemma. So let's now have a look on what each of those building blocks had extracted for me. So if I go there, you will see that here the extracting the JSON that is pretty much similar to the one that I have before, for providing me the JSON information. The same thing if I go here. Now he just gives me all in the JSON array. And if I go for Llama 3 for Google Gemma, we extract also with the JSON. Why is it important to have different large language models work together? Because now I want to avoid hallucination. So let's imagine, for example, that one model has not been trained enough, right? I can have 4 models generating the output and then voting, let those 4 models vote on what should be the best response for that content extraction. Okay, so now you have seen, and actually, how does this, like I mentioned before, how does this macro looks like? The macro itself is very simple. It's just a REST API call that we do with the download tool, right? There are some data that we need to prepare to send the request, and the whole magic happened with the download tool. And I just get the result that I pass, and then I send it out. So nothing more than what a business user can do. And one thing also that you see here, there is no Python involved, which means that actually I don't need to code anything. So if you have some strict restriction in your infrastructure saying that you are not allowed to install different Python package and so on, you have the ability also to use this kind of solution. Okay, this is a very simple use case. Let's switch back to the first use case, personalized product description generation. This is more or less for the people that work in the marketing. So imagine you have, for example, a platform, online platform where you serve more than 20,000 products, and then you want to go on Amazon, and for each type of product that you are serving, have a particular product description. And this product description should take into consideration, for example, the color of the product, the size of the product, the raw material of the product, just to make it more personalized. And you have also the ability to say, now I can tap into my customer data because I'm running a campaign. Actually, in Munich, during the Oktoberfest, the beer fest, I want to have it more funny, this product description, right? Content marketing, targeting exactly those kind of persons. How do I do that with the large language model? So as of now, if you do it, they actually don't go into that fine granularity level. What they do normally is that they will take one product category, make a description for the product category, and all the product in that category will have the same description. So now let's see how we can actually tap those information and make it more personalized for 20,000 products at the same time. So here, I will go over the use case of general product description. The journey here starts with the data coming directly from the factory. And the data that come directly from the factory, they come normally in that form. So this is something that you know, unstructured, no form there. So you need a little bit of data processing. So to extract exactly from the factory directly, what are the raw material, what are the size of the product, what are the elements that particularly are characteristic to that specific product. This is what we do here. We connect to the data and then we pass those information. Here we have then our 30,000 records per item, so 30,000 different products. And then you can see here, there are different things that we get from the database coming from the factory, like the color, where is the department, specific feature, the hardware platform, all those things, we get it from there. So now we want to generate a specific prompt. The prompt is what we are asking to the large language model to do, but we will generate it and parameterize it so that we get actually all the specificity of that product inside the prompt, but at the same time, augment the prompt with some specific thing that I want him to generate when he generates the email or the text description. For example, things like marketing, like emotion, like target persona, different things like this. So here, we will define all those things. For example, here, like the target audience, we select to be the student between the age of 18 to 25. These are the emotions that I want to convey. These are the keywords that I want to position in the description so that also the search engine can find it directly. The domain is electronic and it is specifically for Germany. So what we do first is that we will have the from template. You can see here from the from template. So I will prepare a prompt template and then give it some kind of keyword, product name. If you go there, you will see all different things like target audience, here, the domain, the different things like emotion, and so on. Then I will prepare the prompt template to actually change the keywords with actually what I want to see. And then I will batch everything for my 20,000 product to have for each one of these products a specific prompt for that specific product. And now I can just ask my large language model actually to generate the marketing text for me without any Python coding. And this is actually what we do here. Here we just use 3 models. You will use the first model, maybe for example, oh, I have some error there. Here, this is a marketing that Llama 2 generated, unlock the power of free hands, and try to generate the text with all the keywords that you want to position, making it more beautiful for a student for between 18 and 25 here that lives in Germany, right? And then you can see here exactly where I generate also another text. For example, Balti door, say goodbye to Erlich, make more things, and they are actually techniques that you can make your large language model to be more innovative. And the good thing is, at the end, you can actually compare what is the output of each model. And then you can say, okay, for one specific product, please, let's compare. This is what he generated. This is what the other model generated. Which one works the best? Okay, given that we do not have enough time, I will just stop here. Or let's go over the last one. The last one is a little bit complex. This one, we are trying, actually it's a real use case. We are trying also with a financial asset manager. We want to say, okay, please go over the web, find all the key events that you know of from the last 3 months, all that could impact, for example, that could impact the stock that I am managing. Here, I just make a basic implementation using Google Gemini, where I will take the stock for Apple, I will take Microsoft, from Google, from PepsiCo, from Nike, and then I will ask to Gemini, actually it's quite complex in the background, the macro, where we go over the net, online, go over the Google API, ask for what are the relevant events from the news headline that could impact Microsoft, get all those, try to rank those things, and then just extract the fault where I think there is actually a high impact to my stock price. And I will also say to my large language model, try to quantify what could be the impact of that. And you have here a nice result that comes now as a PDF report. And these are the kind of things, right? You see, normally if you have people that will work every day, scan all the headline and make sure that they do not miss one event. But now you have the ability with those technology actually to interact it and to automate those things. Okay, so we do not have a lot of time. There are a lot of use cases that you can also do with the same workflow. Nothing more to add. And there are also some risks and some things that you need to put in place. But the general key a way is to start small. There is always the ability to link those models inside your workflow. And once you link those models inside your workflow, you give the ability to the business user to integrate those capabilities actually for their data analytics in their data analytics use case. And by doing that, you increase the adoption of those technology. And the result also is that now that the people can interact with the technology, they got upskill automatically. So I will stop here and then ask if there is any question, any remark into the chat and into the audience so that I can answer it since we are actually more or less pretty much out of the time.
Thanks, you, Peter. From my side, I just wanted to sum up that the future is now. Like seeing all the things which you presented. To be honest, I'm using ChatGPT on a daily basis for more than a year right now, and I'm a huge fan of AI from my side. And I see that companies are not using AI at all, but it will probably change very quickly. As you mentioned, it can change even within a few months when it will happen. And this is the time to start exploring this direction for many companies to like make sure that you have some advantage comparing to your competitors, for instance. And this is very interesting, seeing the situation currently.
Yeah. And actually many companies, I don't know if you are aware of that, but 90% of the investor in the stock market did not invest in the company when there is no AI strategy at all. So this is the priority for your CEOs. This is the key priority as of now. And the question is, how do you first build a strategy? How do you tackle those kind of problems? And the second thing is, how do you bring all the people in your company to embed those technology in the day-to-day work or in the business, right? And Alteryx offers you the ability to do that, because for us, from our point of view, it's just a tool with the high capability that you bring inside your workflow, right? And now you can use this capability for your daily data analytics use case.
That's correct. Couldn't say it better. And are there any questions which you would like to ask you, Peter, right now? If there's someone that would like to raise some questions, feel free to use chat or unmute yourself.
Yeah, maybe I will ask one, because I think a lot of people might not be aware how complex it is to set up your own instance of the language model on your own machine.
No, it's actually not complex. So just to give you a hint, the tool that I use here is called LM Studio. It's something that you can download. Once you install it, now you have a repository of different models. So I'll mostly say just look for Llama 3. Then you have different implementation, what the people are also starting. Once you have, for example, you select one Llama 3 instruct model, meaning that it is good for chat or from instruction in the model. You can now say, okay, this one I want to download. And there are different implementation of that. You can download one that can fit into your RAM. You say just download, right? If I click here, download. And then if you go over the download tool, you will see actually that this, one second, exactly here. Then you will see that it starts to download, and that's all. Then you can pause this, let's cancel it because I will not need it. And then you can also try to work like a chat GPT. Ask the question, what's your name? So in general, there are a lot of things where you can deploy. So it's not a technological, I will say, revolution anymore, where you have the ability to deploy a large language model locally, right? So here I am Llama, a large language on my team because I'm using Meta Llama. And now you have the possibility also to host the server. I will stop the server and start it again. And the server is started now on my local host. And this is actually what I am using here locally for the unstructured use case. Here, the local host. And you can go to the server, it's on my machine, and that's all. Right. So very simple. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that within your company, there is already one large language model deployed internally. I'm pretty sure from what I've seen in Germany, what I've seen in my region where I'm responsible with, there is already by now, almost everyone has one. So if you are interact with the customer, you just say, okay, can you provide me the REST API? They have the common semantic. And with the REST API, you can build a nice macro, right? Where you can now send these REST requests as a batch into that REST API, and then you get the response back. Right? The imagination is now to say, yes. And now the imagination is now to say, where can I use those capabilities? Right? And I'm coming back to the initial thought. Just look for a use case where you need to improve your efficiency. And why do you need to go for the use case that you need to improve the efficiency? Because you already know what are the input and the output, and you know you are able to quantify the risk. So let's say the large language model is outputting something that is wrong. You have the expertise to say this is not good, right? And let's start from there. And the more you interact with the technology, the more you know how the technology works, and the more you can increase by implementing additional use cases.
Thanks, Peter. I wonder if there are any other questions from the audience before we wrap up. I just wanted to highlight that we'll have a recording of that session. So whenever you would like to revisit the part of that, feel free. We'll share that on LinkedIn, and we'll definitely share it through the email as well.
And I will share also the workflow so that you can also replicate it home. So you can take it, try to experiment. And I hope this will be eye-opening for you so that you can also, with your customer or within your organization, you can also try to experiment with it.
So thank you, Peter. I just wanted to use one more minute together to mention about the recording. As you can see right now, my presentation, I believe, you can see that we had more than 12 meetings like that.
You can see it, Bert, I think. You can see your Peter's screen still.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, 1 second.
Sure. So thank you very much, Konrad. I will share that one more time.
Seeing my screen? Okay.
No.
No.
It's
Now we see Bart.
It's fine.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So just a last sentence. I just wanted to let you know that this is our, I believe, we had 12 meetings like that in the past. This is the list of the meetings that we had starting in 3 years ago. We have recordings for all the sessions that we have had in the past. So if you would like to watch some of them, feel free to reach out to us. You can as well find it on our YouTube channel. When you scan the QR code here, you can access the YouTube on our LinkedIn profiles. Feel free to follow us, and we'll definitely organize further sessions this year, later this year. Thank you very much for having us, and we look forward to connecting in future.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Mark. Treyson, sorry for joining.
Thank you.
And it was a pleasure. I really enjoyed both the presentation. And thank you, Bart, for being a great host. And thank you, everyone, for joining.